Alright guys, this is our last one. This is going to be a long stretch. We're going to try and finish this book, so this is going to be a little bit longer of a read aloud, and I'm just going to skip a few parts that don't really matter to the bigger part of the story here, okay? Chapter 46. I'm on my way to the laundry room when I look at the lava rock in the courtyard. I push a very small section of the heap of surprisingly dirty red stone, and I peel back the corner of torn plastic liner. So she's looking at her outside landscaping of the apartment complex. I would plant a timber bamboo along the north side and jut it up the open space to the shade roof. Suddenly I see vines and lush plants coming together, and the air is pungent with the smell of life. And then in an instant the vision is gone, and I'm left staring at the red rock and thistles. A piece of black plastic that is close to the dryer vent appears to be waving at me like a black flag. So I go upstairs and I report my findings. I have an idea of what I want to do with the sunflowers downstairs, I say to Dell. Maya's listening, but because she shouts from our room. Downstairs where? I forge ahead. We could remove the red lava rock heap. There's dirt under there, I checked. Think of it, a courtyard with sunflowers. Dell instantly looks concerned. No way, we're not removing anything. This place is bank owned. Mai comes into the room. The red rocks are pretty gross. Kwang Ha hits the button on the remote and increases the volume. Dell has to talk louder now. No one touches the red rocks. I say maybe just one section. Kwang Ha, despite his lack of interest, says, my sunflower is bigger than the others. It should go into the ground. And Dell waves his arms. Nothing is going anywhere. They can stay where they are and be dwarfs. Or what happens to the things that don't have enough space? Mai doesn't like the way that sounds. In my at-risk after-school program, we had a whole session on seeking permission for community projects. Dell gives her a crazy look. This is not a community project. Mai shoots back, of course it is. Dell changes his argument with, I am too busy right now to get anyone's permission for anything. He's just sitting on the couch with Kwang Ha, and neither of them appears to be doing much, ever. Then I say, I'll take the initiative. I can get approval from the bank. Oh yeah? How you gonna do that? I send Jairo at Mexicano Taxi an email, and he answers right away. He picks me up in front of the nail salon, and he takes me to the Bakersfield City Hall tomorrow at 10, and he will take me to Bakersfield City Hall tomorrow at 10 in the morning. His message says that he has news, and he's been waiting to hear from me. In the morning, once we are at work, I wait by the front door of the salon for Jairo. I'm usually in the back, so being up here makes the day feel different. Patty says, I'm happy that you have a project. She's always trying to get me back into school without making it seem like she just wants me out of here. It's a fine line between encouraging someone and telling them to get lost. Jairo gets out of his taxi and comes inside so that Patty can meet him. She doesn't like me going off in a car with a strange man, and I explain at this point that the taxi driver and I aren't strangers, but I understand her concern. I can see that Jairo is wearing a Bakersfield College t-shirt, and I'm very happy about this. I didn't know that Patty spoke Spanish, but right away they started talking in that language. I speak Spanish, so I understand what she says, and it translates to, this little girl has been through a lot, and Jairo tells her, this little girl has changed my life. Patty nods, and he doesn't say more. She then gives Jairo her cell number and says to call if there are any problems. This strikes me as strange because I'm thinking that I should be the one calling to report any problems, not him. I realize that Jairo is the first person I've seen talk to Patty who she hasn't tried to order around, and I think that's interesting. In the car, driving to City Hall, Jairo asks, did you see my picture in the news? I've not paid attention in the last few months to news of any kind. No, I'm sorry. Is everything okay? Jairo is very excited now, almost jumpy. I won $20,000 and I'm using it to go to college. I gasp. This is news. He talks nonstop for the rest of the way about me being his angel, and I have to say that by the time I step out of the taxi at City Hall, I'm feeling pretty good about his life. Jairo says he'll wait outside, and I explain that this could be a long process, and I promise to call him, and he finally gives in, and I don't want to tell him that I'm not his angel. I'm not anyone's angel. But I do say that I think he will make a fine medical technician. It's an expanding field. Jairo wants to call Patty and let her know that I've arrived safely. I don't think it's necessary, but I say yes, I'm sure she expects you to call. I didn't realize that the statement would make him smile, but it does. City Hall looks interesting from the outside, and as a rule, I find public architecture stimulating. I go to the information desk and I wait for the woman to get off the phone. I'd like to review the documents on file for building projects that come before the City Council. She says, excuse me? I'd like to review documents on file for building projects that come before the City Council. The woman looks confused. How old are you? And I answer 12. And I can see that I'm about to be a victim of age discrimination. I'm sure some of you who are listening can relate to that. The woman seems to love repetition. 12, she says. 12, I repeat. Why aren't you in school? I'm homeschooled right now. I'm interested in seeing what a presentation looks like, and it's my understanding that these things would be part of public record. The woman remains suspicious, and it is not very accommodating. She opens her mouth and this time says, "Where are your parents?" Everything stops. I stare, my eyes get drippy, and I hear a voice inside. I repeat it loud, saying it to the world, which includes her. A world lost, a world unsuspected, beckons to new places, and no witness is lost, as so white as the memory of whiteness. And then I add Carlos Williams, The Descent. I don't explain how much I like the poem, but right away I'm directed to the Office of Building and Safety. I end up talking with a bunch of different people there, and finally I'm introduced to a man with a large right ear and an almost non-existent left ear. Just a nub, really. The man has a scar on his neck on the numb side. He doesn't look like a fighter, so I'm guessing he was in an accident. Human ears have successfully been grown on the back of rats and attached to the head of a human by grafting. Obviously, I don't bring this up. I don't want to. The man watches me with real intensity as I leaf through the documents. The garden in the center of our complex does not need approval of elected officials to be transformed, but I want whatever I submit to the bank to appear very professional. I spend a good chunk of my time for the next 2 days writing a proposal for an interior garden at our building. I include drawings done by Kwang Ha under my direction in exchange for biology flashcards. I include research on the climate of our area, the ideal plants that can grow there, the study of the benefits of green areas in living spaces. I also pulled a building permit for the Gardens of Glenwood to show the interior space has the proper drainage, and that in the original plans they didn't show rocks but actually plants. It's my first project since before. After 2 days, I have a full 3-ring binder to submit to the bank board. I believe that I may have provided too much information, but that can be as big of a mistake as too little knowledge. But I can't stop myself from getting more and more material. I'm making the request in Dell's name because he's the person on the lease, and also because getting this kind of detailed plan from a kid would no doubt raise a flag of alarm. I present Dell with the binder. Here it is. I think you should go to North South Bank and ask to see a manager. Introduce yourself and leave this with him. I can't do this, says Dell. He shuts the binder and tries to hand it back to me. Dell Duke is not a bad person. He's just bad at being a person. He has issues with authority, or at the very least, he seems very easily intimidated by anyone who has some. We are not asking for money. We are not asking for anything but permission to remove some eyesore and transform a communal place. It will be an improvement. I've barely gotten the words out of my mouth when Mai comes through the front door. She's been at her friend Kailina's house. What's going on? I look from Dell back to her. I made a proposal and Dell needs to take it to North South Bank. Mai has crazy power over people. It only takes one word from her. Dell. He changes the course like the wind in a dust storm. I'll drop it off tomorrow on my lunch break. Does that work for you too? We nod. From the couch, Kwang Ha says, I did the drawings, and the garden project is underway, at least on paper. The new court date was set. Patty held the documents in her hand. The system was responsible for children until the day they turned 18 years old, so Willow Chance had 6 years to navigate these waters. Patty remembered the note that Willow had written on the first day she met her social worker at the nail salon. She couldn't imagine that any other kid had presented something so precise. Willow had a high-functioning brain, that much was clear. So what does the world do with a 12-year-old girl without a family and a network of close friends? What were the choices? In the big envelope the social worker had sent, Patty found a pamphlet for the next state-sponsored adoption fair. From what she could see, the process looked like speed dating. Fairs were held in the park, and prospective parents arrived and mingled with busloads of kids who came with social workers. Hot dogs and hamburgers were served. A softball game was usually organized. The idea was to just be natural and give people a chance to get to know each other. According to the statistics on the last page of the informational brochure, there were matches made. And of course, sometimes they worked out. Patty felt certain that the little kids, especially the cute ones, got all the attention since they were featured in the pamphlet. The older kids, even the more outgoing ones who were trying to sell themselves, no doubt ended up the snakes at the petting zoo. People probably kept their distance. It was hard to imagine Willow Chance in such a setting, but maybe she would defy the odds. Hadn't she been doing that her whole life? Big news. My binder, worked, and the bank has given Del Duke the go-ahead to do the garden conversion. But the letter, which is from the senior vice president's office, had additional information besides the legal permission to take up the rock pile. Someone over there at North-South Bank is on top of things because, as the letter states, taking the initiative to improve the property as a renter shows a commitment to the values we at North-South Bank hold dear. We have never in the history of the bank seen such a thorough proposal. Therefore, Mr. Duke, in addition to granting you permission to plant the garden in the central uncovered atrium, we have made the decision to ask you to be the building representative for the gardens of Glenwood. I don't think anyone ever asked Del to represent anything before. He looks like he won the lottery. It's a strange combination of being wildly excited and deeply afraid. I'm wondering now about his parents. Maybe as a toddler he was locked in a woodshed in a cold climate for long periods of time. He appears to have just been let out. Looking at him, he reads the letter a sixth time around, and I realize he's sort of weeping. I assure him that the building rep is a big honor that he richly deserves, and the next thing I know, he's down in the garage putting a sign in front of the best parking space in the open carport, and it reads, "Reserved for building rep Del Duke, Unit 28. I guess he just doesn't get what being of service means.